Stay upstairs, Beatrice. My colleagues don't need to see you shuffling around in your bathrobe. The words hit me like ice water. I stood frozen at the top of the stairs in my own home, watching my daughter-in-law, Mallory, adjust the catering platters below. The sound of laughter drifted up from what used to be my living room, now transformed into a cocktail party for my son Garrett's consulting firm. And don't use the main bathroom, Mallory called up without even looking at me. Use yours upstairs. We don't want any awkward encounters. My hand gripped the banister Harold had installed 30 years ago, the same banister where we'd hung Christmas garlands, where Garrett had slid down as a boy despite my protests. Now I was forbidden from walking past it. Through the archway, I could see Garrett chatting with his colleagues, his back to the stairs. He knew I was up here. He knew what his wife had just said, and he chose to keep talking about quarterly projections. They didn't know I still held the key to everything. They had no idea what Harold had really left behind. My name is Beatrice Morrison. I'm 68 years old, and for the past 3 years, I've been learning what it means to be invisible in my own home. Harold passed away from pancreatic cancer 3 years ago, after 40 years of marriage. We built this house together in 1985 when Reagan was president, and our biggest worry was making the mortgage payments. Harold was a structural engineer. I was a registered nurse at Presbyterian Hospital. We raised 2 children here, Garrett, now 38, and Elaine, 35. I still remember Harold's words during those final weeks in hospice. His hand, thin but still strong, gripped mine as he said, "This house is your security, B. Never let anyone take it from you." At the time, I thought he was just worried about me being alone. I didn't understand the weight of what he was really saying. After the funeral, Garrett and Mallory showed up with a U-Haul. "We can't let you stay here alone, Mom," Garrett had said, his eyes avoiding mine. "It's not safe. We'll move in to help out." Help! That's what they called it when Mallory reorganized my kitchen, throwing out Harold's favorite coffee mug because it was cluttered. Help was turning Harold's study into Garrett's home office. Help was moving my sewing room to the basement because Mallory needed a yoga studio. The truth emerged slowly. Garrett had been laid off from his corporate job 6 months before Harold died, something they'd hidden from us. Mallory's marketing firm had downsized her position, which I later learned meant she'd been fired for missing client deadlines. They needed a place to live, rent-free, and I was their solution. "We're taking care of you," Mallory would tell anyone who asked, the neighbors, the mailman, the pharmacy tech who'd known me for 20 years. Poor Beatrice, she's having such a hard time since Harold passed. But I wasn't having a hard time, not until they arrived. Week by week, my world shrank. First, it was small things. Mallory rearranged the living room furniture, claiming it was better for flow. Then she started intercepting my mail, saying she was helping with the bills. My protests were met with concerned looks and gentle suggestions that I was confused or overwhelmed. Garrett, my sweet boy who used to bring me dandelions from the backyard, became a stranger. When I tried to talk to him about boundaries, about respect, he'd pat my shoulder and say, "Mom, you're overthinking things. We're family." But family doesn't make you feel like a ghost. I retreated to the master bedroom, the only space that still held Harold's presence. His reading glasses still sat on the nightstand. His retirement account statement still arrived monthly, addressed to both of us. In the closet behind his old Navy uniform sat the fireproof box with all our important documents. "Everything you need is in there," Harold had said. I hadn't opened it since the funeral. My daughter Elaine called weekly from Seattle, where she worked as a software developer. "Mom, are you really okay?" she'd ask, and I could hear the worry threading through her voice. "You sound different." "I'm fine, sweetheart," I'd lie, knowing Mallory often listened from the hallway. But I wasn't fine. I was disappearing, one day at a time, in the house where I'd raised my children. loved my husband, and built my life. Mallory was 35, with perfectly highlighted hair and a smile that never reached her eyes. She called herself a marketing consultant, though I'd never seen her consult on anything except how to spend my money. She'd been unemployed for 8 months when they moved in, though she told everyone she was between opportunities and focusing on Beatrice's care. The controls started subtly. "Beatrice, you don't need that much for groceries," she'd say, taking my credit card and returning with half of what I'd asked for. "We're all eating together now. I'll handle the shopping." Then I discovered the charges: Nordstrom, Saks, a spa day at the Ritz, all on my credit card, which she'd somehow gotten access to. When I confronted her, she laughed. "Oh, Beatrice, you said I could get a few things for the house. Don't you remember?" I never said that. I would never say that. Garrett had become a shadow of the son I'd raised. Once ambitious and kind, he now spent his days doing sporadic freelance consulting work from Harold's former study. When clients did pay him, the money never seemed to go toward household expenses. "I'm investing in our future, Mom," he'd say vaguely when I asked about contributing to bills. The real betrayal came when Mallory started her campaign with the neighbors. "Poor Beatrice is getting so forgetful," she told Dolores, who'd lived next door for 15 years. "Yesterday, she couldn't remember where she put her keys. We're so worried about her." My keys were in Mallory's purse. I'd seen them there. Dolores pulled me aside one day when Mallory was out. "Honey, you seem sharp as ever to me," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "Is everything really okay?" Before I could answer, Mallory's car pulled into the driveway. Dolores squeezed my hand and hurried back to her yard. The financial manipulation escalated. Garrett started bringing me papers to sign. "Just routine stuff, Mom. Banking updates." When I asked to read them first, he'd sigh. "Mom, don't you trust me? I'm trying to help you." But I'd worked in healthcare for 30 years. I knew how to read documents, and I knew never to sign anything without understanding it. So I stalled, claimed I needed my reading glasses, said I'd look at them later. The papers would disappear, only to reappear days later with more pressure. "Maybe we should add our names to the house deed," Mallory suggested one evening at dinner, cutting her chicken with precise movements. "For your protection, Beatrice, if something happens to you, we'd be able to handle everything immediately." My blood ran cold. "The house is fine as it is." "But what if you have a medical emergency?" she pressed. "What if you become incapacitated? We're just thinking of your best interests." That night, I called Elaine from the bathroom with the water running. "Mom, don't sign anything," she said urgently. "Not without a lawyer. I'm going to look into flights. Your sister upsets your mother," Mallory announced the next day, having somehow learned about the call. "I think it's best if Elaine doesn't visit for a while. The stress isn't good for Beatrice's heart." My heart was fine. It was my spirit that was breaking. The isolation grew worse. Mallory monitored my phone calls, always finding reasons to interrupt when I talked to friends. She'd scheduled appointments that conflicted with my book club, my church activities, my volunteer work at the hospital auxiliary. "You need to rest more," she'd say. "All that running around isn't good for you." Then came the social media posts. Mallory, who documented everything for her 800 Instagram followers, started posting photos of our beautiful home, pictures of my garden, my kitchen, my grandmother's china, all captioned as if they belonged to her. "So blessed to live in this gorgeous Victorian," she wrote under a photo of my house's exterior, "making it our own, one room at a time." Garrett remained willfully blind. When I showed him the posts, he shrugged. "She's just excited about the house, Mom. Don't take it personally." But it was personal. Every drawer reorganized, every photo relocated, every decision made without consulting me. It was all deeply, painfully personal. The quarterly statements from Harold's trust company kept arriving. addressed to me alone. I'd hide them immediately, sensing they were important even if I didn't fully understand them. Mallory had asked about them once. Just old investment stuff, I'd said casually. Harold's pension, nothing significant. She'd lost interest, assuming it was worthless. She had no idea what Harold had really done to protect me. In quiet moments, I'd remember Harold's voice. I've made sure you'll be okay, B. Everything's set up. When you need it, you'll know what to do. I wasn't there yet, but I was getting closer to understanding what he meant. The company party was Mallory's idea. Garrett needs to network, she'd announced, not asking but telling me. We'll host his colleagues here. It'll be good for his consulting business. 40 people, in my home, using my grandmother's china, eating food paid for with my credit card, drinking wine from Harold's collection he'd been saving for Elaine's wedding. You can stay upstairs, Mallory had said that morning, as if granting me permission to exist in my own house. We'll handle everything. But I needed my blood pressure medication from the kitchen cabinet. I'd waited until I heard the party in full swing, hoping to slip down unnoticed. I was halfway down the stairs when Mallory's voice cut through the chatter. Beatrice, I told you to stay upstairs. Every conversation stopped. 40 pairs of eyes turned to stare at me. A 68-year-old woman in a comfortable house dress, frozen on her own staircase like a scolded child. You're embarrassing Garrett, Mallory continued, her voice carrying that false concern she'd perfected. Please, go back to your room. A younger woman, perhaps Garrett's colleague, looked confused. Oh, is this your mother-in-law? Yes, Mallory sighed dramatically. She lives with us. We're her caregivers. It's been challenging. Caregivers. As if I were an invalid. As if they were doing me some great favor by living rent-free in my home. I found Garrett near the fireplace, surrounded by men in expensive suits. Our eyes met for a brief moment. I saw recognition there, maybe even shame, but he turned away, laughing at someone's joke about market volatility. My son, my baby boy, turning his back while his wife humiliated me in front of strangers. I climbed the stairs slowly, my legs shaking, not from age or infirmity, but from rage and hurt. Behind me, I heard Mallory's voice, pitched just loud enough for everyone to hear. She gets confused sometimes. We have to be patient. Someone tittered nervously. Someone else murmured sympathetically. In my room, I sat on the bed Harold and I had shared for 40 years and opened my laptop. It was old, slow, but it worked. I searched through my emails, looking for something, anything that might help me understand what Harold had tried to tell me. There it was, an email from 3 years ago, just weeks before Harold's diagnosis, from Steinberg and Associates, subject line, Re Harold Morrison Trust, documentation complete. I'd never opened it. Harold had handled all of that, and after he died, I'd been too overwhelmed with grief to deal with legal documents. Now, with my hands trembling, I clicked on it. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, as requested, all trust documents have been finalized and filed. Mrs. Morrison, as sole trustee after Mr. Morrison's passing, you have full control of all assets held within the trust. Please keep these documents secure and contact us if you need any clarification on the provisions, especially regarding the protection clauses we discussed. Protection clauses? A knock on my door interrupted me. Mallory entered without waiting for permission, holding a stack of papers. Your Medicare statements came, she said, reaching for them. I'll handle them. No. The word came out stronger than I'd felt in months. Those are mine. Her eyes narrowed. Beatrice, you're obviously overwhelmed. Do you want us to look into assisted living facilities? Would that be easier for you? The threat hung between us like a blade. I'll manage my own mail, I said quietly. Fine. She set the statements on my dresser with excessive force. But when you can't handle things anymore, and you won't be able to, don't expect Garrett and me to drop everything to help you. After she left, I locked the door, something I'd started doing recently, and called Elaine. It was late in Seattle, but she answered immediately. Mom, are you okay? The tears came then, hot and bitter. No, I admitted for the first time. No, I'm not okay. Mom, what happened? I told her about the party, about being banished to my room like a child, about Garrett's silence and Mallory's threats. Elaine's breathing grew sharp with anger. This is abuse, Mom. Financial, emotional. This is elder abuse. You need to act. With what power? I asked. They control everything. They're in my house using my money, and everyone thinks they're taking care of me. What about Dad's documents? The ones he kept in the safe? The safe? Harold's fireproof box in the closet. I haven't looked at them. Mom, look at them. Tonight. Call me back after you do. After we hung up, I retrieved the box. Inside were insurance papers, our marriage certificate, the deed to the house, and a thick folder labeled Estate Planning, Revocable Living Trust. My hand shook as I opened it. Harold's careful handwriting was on a sticky note attached to the front page. B. If you're reading this alone, it means you need to know. You have all the power. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The house, the accounts, everything is protected in the trust. You are the sole trustee. No one can take anything without your signature. And if anyone tries to force you, see Section 8, Protection Against Financial Elder Abuse. I love you. H. You know, at that moment, holding Harold's note, I felt both empowered and terrified. How many of you have been in a similar situation, where you discovered you had more strength than you knew, but were afraid to use it? If this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support helps me share these important stories with others who might need to hear them. And if you've experienced something similar, whether with family, finances, or finding your voice, please share in the comments below. I read every single one, and your stories give me strength too. Sometimes we think we're alone in these struggles, but we're not. We're a community of survivors, of fighters, of people who refuse to be invisible in our own lives. Now, let me tell you what happened next, because Thanksgiving was coming, and Mallory had plans. Thanksgiving had been my holiday for 30 years. Every November, my kitchen would fill with the scent of sage and butter, turkey and cinnamon. Family would gather from across the country, and I'd orchestrate a feast that brought everyone together. This year, Mallory informed me, didn't ask, informed, that she would be handling Thanksgiving. We're hosting this year, she announced, scrolling through her phone. I've already invited my family, 23 people confirmed. But I always, Beatrice, you don't need to cook. You can't handle that many people anymore. She didn't even look up. I've ordered catering from Whole Foods. Much easier. Catering for Thanksgiving. Harold would have been appalled. The morning of Thanksgiving, I came downstairs to find my kitchen transformed into a staging area for aluminum pans and plastic containers. My grandmother's turkey platter, the one that had graced our table for 50 years, sat unused in the cabinet. Where should I set up? I asked, holding the green bean casserole I'd made the night before in secret, using my mother's recipe. Mallory took the dish from my hands and set it on the counter, away from the other food. Oh, we won't need that. I've ordered everything. Why don't you go rest? Doctor's orders, remember? There was no doctor. There were no orders. But her mother was watching, along with her sister and several cousins I'd never met. Harold's brother Frank arrived at noon, carrying his traditional bottle of wine. "Bee," he boomed, hugging me tight. "Where's that famous turkey of yours? I've been dreaming about your stuffing all week." "She's resting," Mallory intercepted smoothly. "Beatrice can't handle cooking for large groups anymore. It's too much for her." Frank's eyebrows drew together. Since when? B, you cooked for 50 people at the church fundraiser just last year. That was before, Mallory said firmly. Things have changed. She's not as capable now. The word hung in the air like a diagnosis. Frank looked at me, concern replacing confusion. I wanted to scream the truth, but Mallory's family surrounded us, all nodding sympathetically at poor, incapable Beatrice. Why don't you eat upstairs, Beatrice? Mallory suggested, though it wasn't a suggestion. All these people might be overwhelming for you. She prepared a plate, a child's portion of dried turkey and lumpy potatoes, and handed it to me like I was in a nursing home. We'll save you some pie, she added, though we both knew she wouldn't. I carried my plate upstairs, each step heavier than the last. Through the floor, I heard laughter, conversation, the clink of glasses. My family, my holiday, my home, and I was banished to my bedroom like a problem to be hidden. But I wasn't alone. Frank appeared in my doorway 20 minutes later, carrying his own plate and wine. This is bullshit, B, he said bluntly, sitting in Harold's reading chair. What's really going on? The truth poured out. The financial control, the isolation, the threats of assisted living. Frank's face grew darker with each word. Harold would never stand for this, he said. Never. He told me about the trust, you know. Said he'd made sure you were protected. The trust? He didn't give me details, but he said there were special provisions. Said if anyone tried to take advantage of you. Frank paused, studying my face. You haven't looked at the documents, have you? I started to, but B, look at them, tonight, and if you need help, call me. He pulled out his wallet and handed me a business card. This is my lawyer, Jim Paulson. He specializes in elder law. Tell him I sent you. From downstairs, Mallory's voice rang out. Once we get power of attorney, we can streamline everything. It's really the best solution for everyone. My blood turned to ice. Frank heard it too. Call Jim, he said urgently. Tomorrow, don't wait. After Frank left, I heard Mallory telling her mother about their plans, how they'd renovate once they had full control, how the house would be perfect for entertaining, how assisted living would be better for Beatrice anyway. That night, I opened Harold's folder completely, read every page. The trust was ironclad, just as Harold had promised. The house was held in trust, not in my name personally. I was the sole trustee with complete control. And there, in Section 8, was the provision Harold had added. In the event of attempted financial abuse, coercion, or undue influence, the trustee has full authority to revoke all benefits and remove any residents from trust property. Mallory had posted on Facebook that evening. Hosted our first Thanksgiving in our dream home. So blessed to have family here. Next year will be even better once the renovations are done. Our dream home, our renovations. I looked at Harold's picture on my nightstand. I understand now, I whispered. You knew this might happen. You protected me even after you were gone. Tomorrow, I would call Frank's lawyer. Tonight, I would plan. The Monday after Thanksgiving, Mallory escalated everything. We need to discuss your future, she announced, spreading brochures across the dining room table. Golden Acres Assisted Living, Sunset Manor, places with stock photos of smiling seniors playing cards. I'm not moving, I said firmly. It's not your decision anymore, Garrett said quietly, not meeting my eyes. Mom, you need help. Professional help. I need help, my voice cracked. I was fine until you moved in. I was managing everything perfectly. You were alone and depressed, Mallory interrupted. Garrett, show her the papers. My son, my own son, pulled out a folder. Mom, we've spoken to Dr. Patterson about your condition. My condition? I haven't seen Dr. Patterson in 6 months. My blood pressure is controlled. My diabetes is managed. Your mental state, Mom. Garrett's voice was mechanical, rehearsed. Your confusion, your paranoia about us trying to help you. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Mallory said, her mask finally slipping. Sign the power of attorney papers, or we'll pursue an incompetency hearing. Dr. Patterson is willing to write a letter about your declining capacity. Based on what examination? I demanded. Based on our observations. Mallory smiled coldly. We've been documenting everything. Your confusion about bills, your inability to cook, your antisocial behavior. Lies. All lies they'd created by taking away my responsibilities, my access, my freedom. I won't sign anything. Fine, Mallory gathered the brochures. We've already scheduled tours. If Elaine shows up, we're moving you out immediately. Your choice. That night, I called the number Frank had given me. Jim Paulson answered on the second ring, even though it was after hours. Frank Morrison's sister-in-law? He called me about you. Can you come to my office tomorrow? I I don't know if I can get out. They watch me. Mrs. Morrison, what you're describing is false imprisonment. Do you have access to your important documents? Yes, I have Harold's trust papers. Good. Scan them if you can. Email them to me tonight. He gave me his email address. And Mrs. Morrison, don't sign anything, nothing at all. I spent the night photographing every page with my phone, emailing them in batches. My hands shook as I worked, terrified Mallory would hear me, would burst in and take everything away. At 3 a.m., Jim Paulson replied, Mrs. Morrison, this is a masterfully constructed trust. You have complete control. Your husband protected you well. We need to meet immediately. Can you get to my office tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I'll send my assistant to pick you up if needed. The next morning, Mallory announced she'd made an appointment to tour Sunset Manor. You'll love it, Beatrice. They have craft hours. Craft hours? Like I was a child. I have a doctor's appointment, I lied. Regular checkup. I'll drive you, she said immediately. No, I already arranged transportation. Dolores is taking me. Another lie, but believable. Dolores had taken me to appointments before. Mallory's eyes narrowed, but she couldn't argue without seeming unreasonable. I slipped out the back door while she was on a conference call, walked 3 blocks to the bus stop, and took 2 buses to Jim Paulson's office. It felt like escaping prison. Jim was younger than I expected, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Mrs. Morrison, I've reviewed everything. This trust is bulletproof. The house, the investment accounts, everything is protected. You are the sole trustee with absolute control. But they're threatening incompetency hearings? Let them try. I've already called Dr. Patterson's office. He hasn't seen you in 6 months and has no basis for any mental health assessment. If they've told him things, that's hearsay, not medical evidence. He leaned forward. There's more. The trust has a provision your husband added. If anyone attempts financial abuse or coercion, you can invoke immediate eviction and press criminal charges. The forged signatures on the power of attorney papers they're trying to get you to sign? That's attempted fraud. There's also, I hesitated. Harold mentioned something about $2 million. Jim's eyes widened. He shuffled through the papers. Here, a separate emergency fund, accessible only if you invoke the abuse provisions. Your husband really thought of everything. So I can fight back? Mrs. Morrison, you don't have to fight. You already hold all the cards. You just have to play them. Jim Paulson wasn't just a lawyer. He was a strategist. As we sat in his office, he laid out the full scope of what Harold had done. Your husband came to me 5 years ago, Jim explained, pulling up files on his computer. He was worried about this exact scenario, not specifically about Garrett, but about anyone who might try to take advantage of you. Harold never said anything to me about being worried. He didn't want to upset you, but he'd seen it happen to other couples. One spouse dies, and suddenly relatives come out of the woodwork. So he created this trust with multiple fail-safes. Jim showed me the documents on his screen. The house has been in the trust for 5 years. It's not in your personal name, which means it can't be subjected to conservatorship or power of attorney. You, as trustee, are the only one who can make decisions about it. But what about the $2 million? That's the brilliant part. Jim smiled. It's in a separate trust account that only activates under specific conditions: evidence of elder abuse, financial exploitation, or coercion. Once activated, it provides you with immediate resources for legal protection and independent living. And Mallory and Garrett don't know about any of this? According to these records, Harold specifically requested privacy. The only notifications went to you, and you've been receiving the quarterly statements. Those statements, the ones I'd been hiding without really understanding them. There's more, Jim continued. I had my investigator do some quick research on your daughter-in-law. He handed me a folder. Inside were credit reports, court records, and social media screenshots. Mallory has $200,000 in gambling debts. She's been sued twice by creditors. And these Instagram posts about her house, they could be used as evidence of fraud if she's representing ownership she doesn't have. My phone buzzed. Dolores, honey, that woman is in your garden, pulling up your roses. Said she's redesigning. I'm recording everything. My neighbor, I told Jim. She's been documenting things. Good. We'll need witnesses. Jim made notes. Mrs. Morrison, I recommend we move quickly. Set up a confrontation in a controlled environment with witnesses present. Your birthday is coming up? Next week, I'll be 69. Perfect. Let them plan something. Let them think they're in control. Meanwhile, I'll prepare everything: eviction notices, cease and desist orders, criminal complaint drafts. When they least expect it, we'll reveal everything. What about Garrett? He's still my son. Jim's expression softened. That's your choice, but he's participating in elder abuse. Whether he's being manipulated by his wife or not, he's made choices. There have to be consequences. On the bus ride home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 3 years: hope. Real, tangible hope. But I had to play the part a little longer. When I got home, Mallory was furious. Where were you? Dolores said she didn't drive you anywhere. I took the bus. I'm still capable of that. The bus? She looked disgusted. Beatrice, that's not safe. This is exactly why we need power of attorney. That evening, she and Garrett sat me down for another talk. Mom, we've consulted with a lawyer, Garrett said. If you don't cooperate, we'll have to take legal action. What lawyer? I asked innocently. Someone who specializes in elder care, Mallory said vaguely. He says we have a strong case for conservatorship. They were bluffing. Jim had already checked. No lawyer in the state had been consulted about my case. I need time to think, I said, playing frail. This is all so overwhelming. We'll give you until your birthday, Mallory declared. 1 week, Beatrice, then we're moving forward with or without your cooperation. That night, Elaine called. I told her everything in whispers. Mom, I'm flying in for your birthday. I don't care what Mallory says. Jim says to let them plan the party. Let them think they're winning. Mom, are you sure you're ready for this? I looked at Harold's picture, at the house we'd built together, at the life I'd been allowing others to steal from me. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. Jim had given me homework: document everything, record conversations if possible, and gather all financial records. But most importantly, he'd given me something invaluable: the knowledge that Harold had protected me, that I wasn't helpless, that I had power. The trust document sat in my lockbox like a loaded weapon, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Mallory and Garrett had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I became the actress I never knew I could be. I've been thinking, I said at breakfast, letting my voice quaver slightly. Maybe you're right. Maybe I do need more help. Mallory's eyes lit up with triumph. Finally, you're being reasonable. Could I see those brochures again? The assisted living places? She practically ran to get them, spreading them across the table like winning lottery tickets. Sunset Manor has an opening next month. We could have you settled by Christmas. Christmas. In my home. Without me. That sounds nice, I managed, while secretly placing my phone on record in my sweater pocket. Garrett looked relieved. This is for the best, Mom. You'll be safer there. And we'll visit all the time, Mallory added, though we all knew she was lying. While they celebrated their perceived victory, I executed Jim's plan. I called my bank, confirming that no one but me had access to the trust accounts. I gathered 5 years of financial statements showing Mallory's unauthorized charges on my credit cards. I even found receipts she'd signed with my name. Forgery, Jim had called it. Dolores proved invaluable. She'd been recording Mallory's behavior for months, worried about me. Videos of Mallory throwing away my belongings, audio of her telling neighbors I was losing it, even footage of her and Garrett discussing their plans in the garden. Not knowing Dolores' security camera could pick up audio. She said she's going to sell your mother's china, Dolores whispered over the fence. Heard her on the phone with an antique dealer. My mother's china. Wedding gifts from 1945, survived the Depression, the war, everything. And this woman wanted to sell it like garage sale junk. Elaine worked from her end, hiring a private investigator to dig deeper into Mallory's past. The findings were shocking. 3 previous elderly roommates in other states, all of whom had complained about missing money before Mallory moved on. A pattern of elder abuse that made my situation look mild by comparison. Mom, she's done this before, Elaine said during our secret evening calls. She's a professional predator. Meanwhile, I played the part of the declining elder. I let Mallory find me confused about where I'd put my reading glasses. They were in her purse. I agreed to tour Sunset Manor, shuffling slowly through the sterile hallways, while Mallory chatted with the director about memory care units. But every night, I prepared. Jim had drawn up all the documents, eviction notices, restraining orders, criminal complaints. Frank had agreed to attend my birthday party as a witness. Even Dr. Patterson, once he learned the truth, was appalled and ready to testify to my complete mental competence. The birthday party planning became Mallory's obsession. She invited 50 people, her friends, Garrett's colleagues, even some distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. It'll be a celebration, she said, though her eyes said farewell party. I found the invitation she'd sent out. Join us in celebrating Beatrice's 69th birthday and new chapter. New chapter. Code for we're putting her away. 3 days before the party, I watched Harold's video message one more time. His face, thin from cancer, but eyes still bright, looked directly at the camera. B, if you're watching this alone, it means I'm gone and you need help. Everything I've built is for you. The trust, the emergency fund, all of it. Don't let anyone take away your dignity or your home. You're stronger than you know. Fight back. I'm with you always. That night, Mallory made her biggest mistake. She brought papers to my room. Not just power of attorney, but deed transfer documents. Sign these now and we'll make your birthday really special, she said. Otherwise, it might be your last party in this house. A threat, clear, documented, recorded on the phone I'd hidden on my bookshelf. I need to read them first, I said. There's nothing to read, just sign. I'd like my lawyer to review them. Her face went white. Your what? My lawyer, Jim Paulson. He's been helping me understand all of Harold's documents. The mask finally cracked completely. You sneaky old bitch, she hissed. You've been playing us? Get out of my room, Mallory. She grabbed the papers and stormed out, slamming the door. I heard her downstairs yelling at Garrett. She has a lawyer. She's been planning something. Let them panic. Let them scramble. They had no idea that everything was already in motion, that their own party would be their downfall. I looked at Harold's picture one more time. Almost there, my love, almost there. Friends, I need to pause here for a moment. What you're about to hear next, my birthday party, was the hardest and most empowering day of my life. It's when I finally understood that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. If you've been following along and this story speaks to you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Too many of us suffer in silence. Eins, thinking we have no options, no power, no voice. But we do, we always do. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. And please leave a comment about your own experiences. Have you ever had to stand up to family? Have you ever discovered you were stronger than you thought? Your stories inspire me every day. Now, let me tell you about the birthday party that changed everything. My 69th birthday arrived with gray skies and the smell of rain, fitting weather for what was about to unfold. Mallory had outdone herself with the party preparations, using my credit card, of course, catered food, flowers, even a cake from the expensive bakery downtown. She wore a new dress, red like blood, and greeted guests as if she were the hostess of her own home. "Welcome, so glad you could celebrate with us," she chirped to each arrival, while I sat in the corner like a museum exhibit. 50 people filled my living room and spilled into the dining area. Mallory's family, Garrett's colleagues, a few neighbors who didn't know better. I noticed who wasn't there. My church friends, my book club, anyone who actually knew me well. Mallory had curated the guest list carefully. At precisely 3 o'clock, Mallory clinked a glass. "Everyone, before we cut the cake, I wanted to say a few words about this special day." She launched into a speech about transitions and new beginnings, heavily implying that I would soon be moving to somewhere more suitable for her needs. Several guests looked uncomfortable, but no one interrupted. "Change is hard," Mallory continued, "but sometimes it's necessary for everyone's well-being." That's when I stood up. "Yes, let's talk about change," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room. Mallory's smile froze. "Beatrice, why don't you sit in my own home? I'll stand if I want to." I moved to the center of the room. "I have an announcement, too." The front door opened. Jim Paulson entered, followed by Elaine and a woman I didn't recognize. A court officer, I later learned. Frank was already there, positioning himself near Garrett. "What is this?" Mallory demanded. "Who are these people?" "This is my attorney," I said calmly. "Mr. Paulson, would you please explain the situation?" Jim stepped forward, briefcase in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here on behalf of Mrs. Beatrice Morrison to address some legal matters that need immediate attention." "This is ridiculous," Mallory sputtered. "Beatrice is confused. She doesn't have a lawyer." "I've been Mrs. Morrison's attorney for 3 weeks," Jim said smoothly. "And I can assure you she's completely competent. In fact, Dr. Patterson is prepared to testify to that fact." He pulled out a folder. "Mrs. Morrison is the sole trustee of the Harold Morrison Revocable Living Trust, which owns this house and all associated assets." Garrett went pale. "What trust?" "The trust your father established 5 years ago," I said, looking directly at my son. "This house has never been in my personal name. It belongs to the trust, which I alone control." "That's impossible," Mallory said, but her voice wavered. Jim continued. "Furthermore, we have evidence of financial elder abuse, forgery, and fraud." He held up a stack of papers. "Mrs. Mallory Morrison, you forged Mrs. Beatrice Morrison's signature on multiple documents, made unauthorized charges exceeding $50,000 on her credit cards, and attempted to coerce her into signing over power of attorney through threats and intimidation." The room was dead silent. Mallory's family members began backing away from her. "You can't prove any of that," Mallory said desperately. "Actually, we can." Dolores stepped forward with her phone. I've been recording everything for months. I have videos, audio, all of it. Jim pulled out another document. This is a formal eviction notice. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. You can't evict us, Mallory shrieked. We live here. We take care of her. Taking care of me? I laughed, and it felt good. You locked me in my room during parties. You told people I was losing my mind. You tried to put me in a nursing home so you could steal my house. I turned to the crowd, many of whom looked shocked. For 3 years, I've been a prisoner in my own home. They've controlled my money, my mail, my phone calls. They've isolated me from friends and family. But what they didn't know, what Harold made sure they could never know, was that he protected me. Jim handed Mallory the eviction notice. You'll also be receiving a criminal complaint. The district attorney is very interested in your pattern of elder abuse across multiple states. Multiple states? Garrett looked at his wife in horror. Elaine spoke up. She's done this before, Garrett. 3 other elderly people in Florida, Arizona, and Nevada. All the same pattern. Move in as a caregiver, isolate them, take their money. Mallory turned to Garrett. Don't listen to them. They're lying. But Garrett was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. Is it true? Have you done this before? Her silence was answer enough. There's one more thing, I said, feeling Harold's strength flowing through me. The trust has a special provision. In cases of elder abuse, a separate emergency fund becomes available. $2 million set aside by my husband to protect me from exactly this situation. Gasps rippled through the room. Mallory's legs seemed to give out. She sank into a chair. That money will ensure I can live independently and safely for the rest of my life, I continued, and pay for the excellent legal team that's going to make sure you face consequences for what you've done. The silence in the room was deafening. 50 people stood frozen, watching the drama unfold like a courthouse scene from a movie, except this was my life, my home, my stand for dignity. You have 30 days to leave, I repeated, my voice steady and clear. This is a legal eviction notice, properly served with witnesses present. Mallory jumped up, her face contorted with rage. You can't do this. Garrett, tell her. My son stood there, shoulders slumped, looking like a lost child. Mom, please, we're family. Family? The word tasted bitter. Family doesn't lock me upstairs during Thanksgiving. Family doesn't forge my signature or steal my money. Family doesn't try to throw me into a nursing home to steal my house. We were taking care of you, Garrett protested weakly. No, son, you were taking advantage of me. There's a difference. Jim Paulson stepped forward again. Mr. Morrison, the forged documents your wife created include your signature as well. You could face charges as an accomplice unless you cooperate with the investigation. The blood drained from Garrett's face. I didn't know about any forgery. But you knew about the plan to force me into assisted living, I said. You brought me the papers. You participated in the lies about my mental state. Frank moved closer to his nephew. Garrett, your father would be ashamed. He built everything to protect your mother, and you tried to tear it down. I was trying to help, Garrett's voice cracked. No, I said firmly. You were trying to take the easy way out, living rent-free, letting your wife control everything, turning away when you knew it was wrong. Mallory grabbed Garrett's arm. Don't let them do this to us. It's our home. It was never your home, I said. It was my sanctuary that you turned into a prison. The court officer stepped forward. Ma'am, if you refuse to accept the eviction notice, I'll have to call for police backup. Mallory's mother, who had been silent until now, spoke up from the corner. Mallory, what have you done? Nothing. They're setting me up. Mallory's voice was shrill, desperate. Dolores connected her phone to my television. I didn't even know that was possible. And suddenly the room filled with Mallory's voice from a recording. The old fool doesn't even know what she owns. Once we get power of attorney, we'll sell this place and put her in the cheapest home we can find." Gasps echoed through the room. Mallory's family members began heading for the door, distancing themselves from the scandal. Another recording played, Mallory telling someone on the phone about selling my mother's china, laughing about how I was too senile to notice. "Turn it off," Mallory screamed. "There's more," Dolores said calmly. "3 months' worth. Would you like to hear the part where you discussed drugging her to make her seem more confused?" "You what?" Garrett spun toward his wife. "I never actually did it," Mallory protested. "It was just talk." "Just talk about drugging my mother?" Garrett's face transformed from confusion to horror to rage. "What else did you lie about?" Elaine pulled out her phone. "The gambling debts, for starters. $200,000, Garrett. That's why she needed this house. She owes money to some very unpleasant people." "Gambling debts?" Garrett staggered backward. "You told me your father left you that debt." "Your father's been dead for 10 years," Mallory's mother said quietly. "There was no inheritance, no debt from him. Mallory, I warned you this would catch up with you." The room erupted in chaos. Mallory's relatives fled. Garrett's colleagues backed away, pulling out phones to call rides. Within minutes, only the core group remained: me, Garrett, Mallory, Jim, Elaine, Frank, Dolores, and the court officer. "I want to make something very clear," I said, standing tall despite my age. "Garrett, you're my son, and part of me will always love you. But love doesn't mean accepting abuse. You have a choice. Leave with her and face the consequences, or stay, get help, and try to rebuild our relationship." "If he stays, I'll destroy both of you," Mallory snarled, her mask completely gone. "I know things. I'll tell everyone you're senile. You'll be in jail," Jim interrupted. "The district attorney is particularly interested in your activities across state lines. That makes it federal." Mallory went white. "Federal? Wire fraud, mail fraud, interstate elder abuse. You're looking at significant prison time." She turned to Garrett one last time. "You're really going to let them do this to me? After everything?" "After everything?" Garrett laughed bitterly. "You mean after you lied to me, used me, tried to drug my mother?" "Yes, Mallory, I'm going to let them do this." "Then you're weak, just like your mother said, a pathetic mama's boy who—" "That's enough." The court officer stepped between them. "Ma'am, I suggest you start packing. You have 30 days, but I wouldn't wait until the last minute." Mallory grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, then turned back. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I said quietly. "It's completely over." She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Through the glass, we watched her get into her car and speed away, tires squealing. 6 months have passed since that birthday party. The house feels like home again. Mallory was arrested 2 weeks after the eviction notice when she tried to break in at night to steal what she called her belongings. Actually, my grandmother's silver. The security system Elaine installed caught everything. She's now serving 18 months in federal prison for interstate fraud, with 3 years probation after. She also owes me $50,000 in restitution, though Jim says I'll be lucky to see a penny of it. Garrett filed for divorce the day after the party. It turns out Mallory had hidden debts he knew nothing about, credit cards in his name he'd never seen. The divorce was finalized last month. He's living in a small apartment downtown, working a real job, not freelance consulting, but actual employment with benefits and regular hours. We're rebuilding slowly. He comes for dinner on Sundays. At first, these dinners were silent, awkward affairs. But gradually, we began talking, really talking, perhaps for the first time since Harold died. "I lost myself, Mom," he told me last week, helping dry dishes, something Mallory never let him do. I was so desperate after losing my job, and she seemed to have all the answers. I let her convince me you were the problem when really, I was. We all make mistakes, I said, though forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. What matters is what we do after we realize them. He's in therapy now twice a week. The therapist specializes in manipulation and emotional abuse survivors. Yes, Garrett was a victim too, even as he participated in victimizing me. It's complicated, like most family things are. Elaine moved back from Seattle. She started her own software consulting firm, working from Harold's old study, with my blessing this time. Having her here, hearing her laugh in the hallways, seeing her car in the driveway, has healed something in me I didn't know was broken. I should have come sooner, she said one evening as we sorted through family photos. I knew something was wrong. You came when I needed you most, I assured her. That's what matters. The $2 million from Harold's emergency fund has been carefully invested. Jim helped me set up my own trust, ensuring that no one, not even my children, can access it without my explicit consent. It will provide for my care as I age, on my terms, in my home. I've also used some of it to establish the Harold Morrison Foundation for Elder Rights. We provide legal assistance to seniors facing financial abuse from family members. In 6 months, we've helped 12 people reclaim their independence and dignity. Dolores and I have become true friends, not just neighbors. We go to lunch every Wednesday, take water aerobics at the senior center together, and she's teaching me to use social media properly. Not like Mallory, she says with disgust. Frank visits regularly, bringing stories of Harold from their childhood. He'd be so proud of you, Bee, he said last week. You fought exactly like he knew you would. Dr. Patterson has become an advocate for elder rights, horrified that Mallory had tried to use his name to institutionalize me. He now requires in-person evaluations for any competency concerns and has implemented new protocols to prevent similar abuse. The house itself has been restored to my vision. The furniture is back where it belongs. My mother's china gleams in the cabinet. Harold's chair sits in its spot by the window. The roses Mallory tore out have been replanted. They're small now, but they'll grow. I've joined the Senior Center's advisory board, sharing my story to help others recognize the signs of elder abuse. It's more common than people think. Adult children taking advantage of aging parents, assuming entitlement to inheritances, treating their elders like burdens instead of human beings with rights and dignity. Last week, I got a letter from Mallory in prison. I didn't open it. Jim filed it with the court as evidence of continued harassment. She has no power over me anymore, not even to disturb my peace with her words. Garrett asked me recently if I regret what happened, if I wish I'd handled things differently. I regret that it was necessary, I told him honestly, but I don't regret standing up for myself. Your father gave me the tools to protect myself, and I used them. That's not something to regret. It's something to be proud of. The trust documents now include a letter to my children, explaining everything clearly, preventing any future confusion or opportunity for manipulation. Elaine is the successor trustee, with Frank as backup. Garrett understands and accepts this. I haven't earned that level of trust back yet, he said when I explained it. Maybe someday. Maybe. Time will tell. If you're still listening, I want you to know why I shared this story. It's not for sympathy or vindication. I've already found both. It's for you, especially if you're a woman my age who feels trapped, powerless, or invisible in your own life. Age doesn't diminish our worth. Gray hair doesn't erase our rights. Needing help sometimes doesn't mean we deserve to be controlled, manipulated, or discarded. Parents don't owe their children eternal servitude. We raised them, loved them, sacrificed for them, but that doesn't mean we must accept abuse in return. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's exploitation wearing a familiar face. The most important lesson Harold taught me, even after death, is this: true power isn't loud or visible. It's in the quiet preparation, the legal documents properly filed, the rights understood and protected. Knowledge of your rights is your greatest weapon against those who would take advantage of you. To my fellow seniors, please hear this. Never sign anything under pressure. Never give up control of your finances to anyone who makes you feel small. Never believe that needing help means surrendering your autonomy. And never ever be ashamed to seek legal protection from your own family if necessary. Keep your important documents secure and private. Maintain relationships outside your immediate family, neighbors like Dolores, old friends, church members. These connections aren't just social, they're potential lifelines when family becomes the threat. If someone tells you you're being difficult for maintaining boundaries, remember, boundaries aren't walls built from hatred, they're fences built from self-respect. To the adult children who might hear this story, understand something crucial. Your parents' assets aren't your inheritance in waiting. Their home isn't your safety net. Their retirement isn't your backup plan. They worked their entire lives for their security, not yours. Respect is a two-way street, regardless of age. The way you treat your parents becomes the template for how your children will treat you. Garrett learned this the hard way, watching his own dignity crumble as he participated in destroying mine. Harold used to say, "Dignity isn't given, it's claimed." At 69, after the hardest battle of my life, I finally understood. Dignity is standing up when everyone expects you to sit down. It's saying no when everyone assumes you'll say yes. It's choosing your own path when others have already mapped your journey to suit their needs. This house, my house, stands as more than property or inheritance. It's proof that we're never too old to fight back, never too weak to reclaim our power, never too late to demand respect. If you're being treated as invisible in your own home, if your children see you as an ATM or an obstacle, if you're being pressured to give up your independence for someone else's convenience, remember this: you have more power than you think. Use it. Your life isn't over until you decide it is. Your story isn't finished until you stop writing it. And your dignity isn't lost until you stop fighting for it. Stand tall, stand firm, stand up for yourself. You're worth it. You've always been worth it, and you always will be.